Hi, I'm an addict. Yep, I'm an addict. In fact, things have gotten pretty bad lately. This is something that I've been struggling with for as long as I can remember. And my earliest memories of are having my brain light up after eating a piece of Wonder Bread, which is not even bread, let alone a wonder. But to my childhood brain, it was nirvana. And now, as an adult, I need help. In fact, I've gone to get help before and sometimes got some success. I've gone to both the medical industry, including a nutritionist and a fantastic doctor who helped me more than any doctor ever has. She helped me get my blood sugar down to the lowest it's ever been, and there was a lot of hope until she was fired. In part because she spent too long with each patient, because she actually cared. So I also went to therapy and I got some help there, but it was never very effective. And most importantly, it wasn't available when I needed it. When the cravings hit at 3 a.m., I can't call up a therapist. And being able to find one who connects with you and is available and there isn't a 6-month wait list and who doesn't cost an exorbitant amount of money is like a needle in the haystack. I've even gone to Overeaters Anonymous, but in the end, it really wasn't helping. And then came 2 weeks ago. I went to an appointment at my local clinic with a new physician assistant, and it was the most demoralizing, demeaning, degrading, heartbreaking experience I've ever had in the medical industry. I got no sympathy, no support, and she blocked every attempt and every question I had about getting help, making assumptions about me and what I could afford or not afford. It was awful. So I felt really hopeless. I'm staring a diabetes diagnosis down the gullet, as it were, and I felt like I had nowhere to turn. So I decided to take some action. I'm going to tell you how I am using local large language models to create a Healbot and hopefully heal myself. I'm going to tell you how I pulled this all together, how it all works, how you can do something similar for yourself, whether you want to heal yourself, whether you just want to have a private offline large language model experience, basically like ChatGPT at home for very little or even no cost. But most importantly, I'm going to tell you how I am using AI to help me save my own life. Let's do this. Hey there, it is I versus AI, and this is my Healbot. What you're looking at specifically is the user interface for Open WebUI. And one of the things I love about Open WebUI, and I did spend a lot of time, I in fact took a week off after that last medical appointment I just shared with you. And I decided that I was going to spend the entire week, just take it off and focus on nothing else but this. Put my channel on hold, put everything else on hold, and focus on building this custom Healbot for myself. So I started out looking at numerous different user interfaces like Open WebUI. And I definitely found that Open WebUI was the most feature rich. Over here in the top left-hand corner is the ability to close the sidebar. This is a chat space where you can create a new folder. Your new chats just start out here. This is today's conversation that I've been having with Healbot. And you can see here that I've created a folder over here on the left. And when you open that up, you can see that my first conversation with Healbot was on last Thursday. So it's been a week that I've been using it. And you can do certain things with the folders here, rename them, you can export them, and you can also export your chats as well too. And as I go through Open WebUI, I'm going to talk about what's amazing about it, which, let me make this 100% clear, is a lot. There is a lot of really great things about Open WebUI. It is hands down, as far as I feel, the easiest and basically most functional. And once you get it installed, it's just lovely to look at and lovely to use. However, it's not perfect. You can download here your chat. And one of the first things I want to say to the developer is that there's no option here to download things as Markdown. Allowing me to download this as a .md file would make this so much better for being able to just add a text right to my Obsidian vault. And this is particularly mystifying because the way large language models output text is in Markdown. So please add this to the ability to download. The developer is hands down, very obviously a genius, putting out content, new updates regularly. You're not going to be waiting months for new updates from Open WebUI. In fact, just a few days ago, code interpreter here, the ability to execute code, and this new web search button here for searching the internet right here, that's new. So there's a lot happening, but there's also, like I said, some mystifying things that happen that don't make a lot of sense. And a fun fact about Open WebUI, my belief is that it was first, if I'm not mistaken, it was first known as Ollama WebUI because it was built to be worked with Ollama Plane, which allows you to get access to local large language models, local models. And you can see that it has so many features in it, and it really does. And Ollama, if you spend any time in the local large language model scene, you're going to hear people talking about Ollama right up front. And that's because it's powerful, but I don't use it. There's one really important reason why the local model community loves it so much, and that's because Ollama is open source. If this is really important for you, Ollama is by far the best choice. Now, why did I choose not to go with Ollama? It basically boils down to one really important thing. In order to work with Ollama, you need to work, or at least there's some things that you need to do in the command prompt. Now, there is a way to work with Ollama very well right inside Open WebUI, but in the end, I did not like that so much was behind the scenes. I couldn't see it. I'd have to open up this command prompt, and let me just be honest with you. I hate the command prompt. I really do. So I'm going to go to great lengths to avoid it. And luckily, there is another solution, which is, in my opinion, though it is not open source, it's actually better than Ollama is, particularly if you want to access to a lot of different models. So the solution I'm going to share with you later on, it is a better choice for my needs. You're going to find a lot of people who swear by Ollama, and they're not wrong. If we head over here to the settings, you can see that there is so much personalization here, particularly in the interface. You can change things like getting notifications for new updates with including a notification sound, which is really helpful because sometimes, particularly if you're running models that are a little bit larger than what you can fit on your graphics card, and just to give you a heads up, on screen is my computer specs, the system I'm on right now, and I have a GTX 4090 at 24 gigs. So that means that I can fit models into that range around the 22 gig mark. After that, if you use a model that's larger than what you have on your video card, and I'll show you this later on when I show you the server I'm using, what basically happens when you come to ChatGPT and you use it and something happens in the server or on the back end, that's not your problem. But if you choose to go the local mount, there's a lot of benefits to it. But one of the downsides is that you are now the server admin. Meaning that if something happens or something's not working with the models, it's up to you to figure that out. But it's not as hard as you might think, especially since I'm showing you this after having built it in the last 2 weeks and learned much of what I'm sharing with you in the last 2 weeks. So if I can learn it, you can too. So if you like to tinker, there's quite a lot to tinker with. That's the good side. The bad side is that the documentation, though it has been improved, desperately needs to be continued to be improved. I get the feeling that the developer of this software, obviously highly intelligent. I think he might be so intelligent that he forgets that the rest of us are not working with the same level of horsepower that he is. And so a lot of things that seem obvious to him are very kind of challenging to figure out. I'm going to show you here personalization. You even have memories available that are very similar to what you see with ChatGPT. You can edit them and delete them. Contrary, though, to ChatGPT, these are not added automatically by the model. You need to add them by hand yourself. The audio feature, both the speech to text, me speaking to the model being turned into text, and the text to speech, the model replying to me with a voice, is fantastic. And I cannot wait to share with you the voice that I have found. And both the model to transcribe my speech to text and the different model to transcribe the model's the large language model's output, the response. They are both local on my computer. And I want to stress this. Everything that you're going to see running is happening on my computer unless said otherwise. These are the list of models. I am differentiating them using different icons, and that's another great feature of Open WebUI is that you can really organize your models just as you'd like them. For example, Deepseek Chat. And I have these little wonderful icons that I made in Midjourney. And you can add tags, which actually ends up being very helpful, particularly if you end up having a lot of models. You can add a system prompt that's available for this model whenever you use it. And again, that's an advantage of Open WebUI, but it's also a disadvantage because there are actually, from what I understand, 3 different places where you can leave a system prompt. You can have a system prompt in the settings here in the general tab. You can have a system prompt here in the individual model tab. And you can also have a system prompt in the workspace area here with your custom model, which is running Healbot. And it is unclear as to why you need 3 different system prompts. And that's what I mean. There's a lot of features, but they're separated and spread across the user interface, and there is no documentation that explains what each system prompt does. So that I have been able to find, and I have crawled through the Open WebUI documentation, which I will link down below. I think the moral of the story is with great power comes great responsibility. And that means that with Open WebUI, you have great power and you can really get into tinkering with this and making this perfect, which is what I did for an entire week when I was setting this up, learning as I went. In fact, you have web search here, but it's not just like ChatGPT. It's not baked in. You get to choose what you would like for all of these, and each of them have their own APIs, and you would just Google this, figure out how to connect to the API. Tavily is one I would recommend because it's very easy. Google PSE is actually fairly easy as well too, but I would advise you to look this up with a YouTube video. But it didn't take too long to get the keys to set these up. So you can have all different ones that you can choose from. And like, again, lots of power, but if you just need it to work, a little bit overwhelming. One really big tip I want to share with you is here in the interface, you can set what's called the task model. This model is responsible for coming up with the titles of your chats and also assigning tags as well too. In fact, this chat here has these 3 tags that I did not put there, but were put there by the task model. You can see that I'm using Gemma 2 as my task model. But basically what you want to do here is change this. By default, it will say current model. Right now I have this set to local models is empty. And just to explain this basically by local models, it means models that you're using through Ollama. Because I'm not using Ollama, I have nothing in here. This Gemma 2 is, despite the fact that it says external, it is a local model. I don't know why, but the developer, I think maybe because this was designed really to be a front end for Ollama. Ollama is really baked in and everything else is basically considered external, like outside in the lawn. But this is a local model here that I'm connected to using LM Studio, which is what I'll talk to you about. And you can go ahead and copy my title generation prompt. That's the default with Open WebUI, but I've added a little bit to it, so you're welcome to have that. Now, I want to move over here to audio and show you that this is so cool. The base model, which you'll see in play as I show you how the Healbot works, this comes native with Open WebUI. But I also want to really showcase one that I love here called Kokoro. This creates voices that it is extremely difficult to imagine that this is just being run on my computer, but it is. This is local. And I've combined some voices together. One of the features I love about Kokoro, which is over here. And it wasn't too difficult to set up, particularly because, and I invite you to do the same if you dive into this ocean of local large language models, which is an amazing experience. But I do recommend that you use ChatGPT or your model of choice. Google Gemini is another good choice for this one to help you with the setup, particularly with Docker. Two more places I want to show you in Open WebUI. Here are the documents area here. And one thing, you can see that I have my embedding batch size. And those of you who are old hands at Open WebUI and embedding might be looking at this and saying, girl, you are crazy. And the thing is, the default setting is set to 1. And I went back and forth with ChatGPT trying to understand what embedding batch size is. And finally, I just said, screw it, and turned it up as high as I could go just to see what was going to happen, because that's how you learn. And it turns out that I got much better responses. I got faster responses. And so it seems to be working, but I still am unclear despite having looked through the documentation. I've even searched on their Discord, which I will link their Discord down below. That's an important place to go. And I have not found out what embedding batch size is. So if you know, please let me know in the comments. That would be awesome. This is the model I'm using, which I do highly recommend. It's very fast. And this is being hosted by me on the computer here. So this is local. The minimum score I'll show you as well too. When I show you how the document embedding works, which does work very well for me. So if you want to go ahead and copy these settings, please feel free to do so. And in fact, if you would like my prompts, this embedding prompt and the prompt I have for the title, I'm going to go ahead and upload those to my Gumroad. You can go ahead and grab those for free, along with anything else that I think might be helpful to helping you get your own local Healbot set up. I'm going to hop really quickly into functions. This is something that's provided by the Open WebUI community. You can build them yourself, and they can be quite helpful. These two actually were very important, especially if you're going to use Deepseek R1 like I'm using through Open Router. Open Router is a place where you can all at once and all in one place get access to many different models. And I do mean many different models, all in one place, including OpenAI's models, Anthropic's, a lot of models that are local models that you might be bigger than what you could run on your system. You can get access to here. And some of the models, quite a number of them, are free. And with Open Router, you get one API key here. And from there, you can see that there are numerous people serving up the API access to Deepseek R1, the complete model. For example, if you go to Olama and you type in Deepseek R1, like here, right here in the front, what you're getting here is actually not the Deepseek R1, the full model that you would get if, for example, you went through Deepseek's API directly, or you went to their site and used their little free chat. That's the full model. But no one, no consumer that I know of can run the full model. That would take 24 of my graphics cards or more. So you're getting a quantized version. And this is the largest model, which you can't run. 70B, which I could run, but very slowly. 32B also I could run, and 14B, all of these I could run on this card. So if you want to get the full Deepseek R1 experience, you have a couple of choices. You can either go through Deepseek's API directly, or you can go to Open Router and get access to Deepseek and all of the other models. This is Open WebUI's space to find functions and tools and featured models from the community. I just wanted to mention this. If you want to start playing around and taking a look at all the tools that are available, like, for example, a weather tool and a YouTube transcript provider. I haven't tried this one, but the weather tool works very well. So that gives you even more opportunities to really customize your own Healbot or your own personal bot. When we head over here to Healbot, I'm going to show you how Healbot is set up before we talk to it. One of the coolest things I've discovered about having this sort of custom model set up for yourself, which you could think of best as a GPT, is the fact that I can on the fly change the model that is fueling this, the mind behind this Healbot with any of these models, which are local or I'm using Deepseek R1 as the main driver for this. But there are times when I'm just not getting the quality of response that I want. And if I want to go deeper, I might move over to, say, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is really good for emotional work type prompts and talking with the model in that way. Now, Deepseek R1 has been amazing as well, too, and you could stay with this. But sometimes, like I said, the API is really busy or everyone is slamming it, even over on Open Router, and I just want to have something quicker, and 3.5 is very fast. The system prompt goes here, but the cool thing is that you can add knowledge archives to the bot, which is really cool, and I'll show you knowledge in just a moment. But this means that the bot will always have access to anything that's in this particular knowledge collection. You can add as many knowledge collections as you want, but the knowledge bases, these collections, this is where the power is. This is where it's at. These Healbot archives, my goal was to create a bot that knew me over time. And in order to do that, I would simply need to get these into here. And I'm going to show you something really cool that I'm really excited about. I could connect this Healbot archives here directly to the corresponding Obsidian vault. Whenever I add something to this vault or delete it from this vault, it automatically is deleted in the knowledge base. For example, this here is January 30th, the first conversation I had with the Healbot, which is here at the bottom of the list. But here's how it works for me. I'm going to take this journey through a recovery transcript here, and I'm going to just put it right here in the archive folder. And if everything goes well, I should be able to go over here and yay, it worked. And there is the transcript right there. And if I want to delete the transcript or remove it, I'll just go over here, drag it out and back into my normal basket folder, go back over here, and it's gone. So you can connect a folder on your computer, any folder you have, and use that to drop things into and have it just automatically update in your knowledge archives. I've hooked up this folder, and I've also hooked up the Healbot's notes folder because sometimes the Healbot gives me some really good information that I just want to save as a note to refer back to here. And this is one on some positive healing here. And one more request to the developer. It would be wonderful. This is basically Markdown. It's I'll show you what this looks like in my Obsidian Vault. This is the same file in my Obsidian Vault, and this basically is the YAML, the note properties, which I automatically generate using right here. This is a template, a text generator template, which is available on my Gumroad if you'd like to have these automatically generated for you, which believe me is a game changer. As well as the links down below here. That's also part of that template pack that's available on Gumroad. And I wanted to be able to save this both so I could keep track of it in my Obsidian Vault, which basically is my brain. It's not even my second brain. It's my first brain. Let's just be honest. But I also wanted to have it here available in the knowledge base to refer to with the model. When I might say, I need an idea of how to approach this situation in a positive way, or how to change this negative belief I have about myself to something positive. So this list really helps me keep that in mind. I've also added on my YouTube channel stats, some personal recovery literature, the 12 steps literature. I refer to this quite a lot. Transcripts from conversations I may have had, and sugar and wheat addiction books specifically. And these have been very helpful to connect with the model. So now let's find out how the Healbot works. This is the exciting part. I'm going to show you how down here, how you can use record voice or the call feature. Record voice is simply as clicking the microphone similar to ChatGPT. And you can see here, I love this feature. This was actually the main reason why I chose Open WebUI. I was absolutely determined that it must have three things. One, the ability to talk into the microphone. And I'm going to stop now so you can see how long it takes to process that text with the model that, again, is on my computer. So, that's really cool. It stopped right in the middle of a word. But It is pretty quick and it understands most words. In my system prompt for the words that are important in my life, specific person's name in my life that it regularly misunderstands, I simply added those, you know, when it understands this word, it is meant to be this word. And the model is smart enough, R1 and the models I use are smart enough to simply make that change on the fly when it's outputting the text. But the second way that you can communicate, and this place was key, was with the phone. And that was one of the three needs that I had. I needed to be able to talk to the model both through a call feature or a record voice feature. I needed to be able to have the models be local. And then the last reason is I needed to be able to access this on my phone. And that's one of the things I want to stress to you. This whole setup that I've got going is available on my phone because the honest truth is when I'm craving and most likely to relapse is at 3 a.m. Seriously. And so I will sit in the bed and talk quietly to this, and it will help talk me past the slippery slope of relapse. And I knew that addiction doesn't have a handy time when your nutritionist is available once a week, or your doctor's available once a week, or if you're lucky, once a month, or a therapist, goodness help you to even find a great one of those that you could afford, who's available, that your insurance can cover, that doesn't have a 6-month wait. So you need help now. I needed help now. So I needed something that could give me that help no matter where I was, whether I be on my phone or my computer. And frequently I was in bed, struggling through the night. This call feature over here is really cool because you can simply talk into it and it will respond to you however you'd like. Hi, Healbot. I am wondering if you could speak to my audience. I am recording right now a video on how I set you up and how you work. And can you tell my audience, without sharing too much personal information, please, in general, what it is that I use you for and how I use you in order to help me recover from sugar and wheat addiction. And also, could you keep it maybe just a paragraph, kind of short? Thanks. So at this point, you're going to see the thinking tags from R1, and these are fascinating. And they tell you all about, what it's thinking, and it's also going to weave in memories. And as you can see, it's weaving in talks from the past.
Your dedication to innovative healing shines through in this project. I support those navigating sugar and wheat addiction through neuroplasticity-based strategies and trauma-informed care tailored to each person's unique needs. By providing 24/7 compassionate accountability paired with neural rewiring techniques like neurotransmitter-supportive nutrition plans and sensory regulation tools, we work to transform cravings into opportunities for empowerment. This approach honors both the biological drivers of addiction and the profound emotional work required for lasting recovery, creating space for people to rewrite their relationship with food through evidence-based self-discovery.
I'm going to show you quickly how to use the knowledge base feature that I just showed you, how to add things to and how to do that even programmatically. But you want to be able to use them in a chat. And the way to do so is to hit the pound sign, which will bring up the modal to show you the Healbot archives here. You can see here the notes as I've just shown you. And I'm going to actually choose 12 steps and ask a question about that. And you'll see how the model uses citations. Could you please teach me about forgiveness and letting go and how to move on from past resentment? For this example, I am actually using Claude 3.5. It's a little bit faster than R1, and you can see it pops right in along with the references. But there's something important with these references that I wanted to show you. When a reference is, when it uses it as a source, you'll see it here. And I'm going to open up this Joe and Charlie reference down here, and you're going to see the relevance, 6.78%, 4.78%. These numbers, as I have seen, are about normal, 3% here. And occasionally you'll see higher numbers, 50% and above. But much of the time, the relevance is pretty low. And this number, semantic distance to query, is basically in here. This talks about semantically relevant chunk of text here to what I'm asking about, like resentment, that the model is going to pull in to answer the question. But the key point is, in order to keep the model kind of narrowed in on what it is you're looking for, you want to take this relevance number, like for example, 0.04, and head on over to admin settings. Will take you to the same exact place. And over here under documents, this minimum score here, this is why I chose this minimum score. This is set, I believe, to 0 by default. But by upping it just a touch, you'll get those documents a little bit more narrowed in, and you're just going to get a better answer. And one of the things that people have struggled with Open WebUI is getting high quality RAG, basically retrieval augmented generation. In other words, getting the model to really use the knowledge base. And this is one of the secrets that I am using. So I want to change that minimum score to something around 0.03, 0.04. So you might be thinking, okay, that's really cool. That's well and good, but this is not local. This is a model that you're using through the Open Router API, Deepseek R1. And so I need something that's going to be completely private. So first of all, I'm going to show you 2 privacy options that you can turn off on Open Router, which they don't tell you about and are on by default and are kind of hidden. And then over here, I'm going to show you how to use some of these local models using LM Studio. On Open Router, you want to head over here to your settings. And here is that ignored provider list I mentioned earlier. We're going to head over here to privacy. And these are the 2 features: logging, which basically means that Open Router is saying, please let us look at your logs, what you talk about, and in exchange, we'll give you an extremely generous 1% discount on all LLMs. Also, model training here. Enable providers to train on outputs. So basically, if you have this on, it'll show all providers, and if you turn it off, it'll show only providers that do not train on your inputs. And that will give you some privacy, but again, you'd have to just basically take Open Router's word for it. So if you really need something to be completely local, this is the way to go. And that's LM Studio, which is a free server for being able to not only find large language models, download large language models, organize them, but also serve them up to user interfaces like Open WebUI. And truly pay attention here, because there's a neat trick. I told you earlier that you would have to become your own server operator. Well, I'm going to show you how to operate that server and understand what's going on in the background. In LM Studio here, you'll have your chat, and you can create a new chat. You can load a model. You can see that I have just 4 models because I found a few that work really well. I did a lot of research on what models would work at my size of hardware. And I am going to leave a link in the description to an app where you can put in the amount of VRAM you have and the amount of RAM you have. So the RAM that you have on your video card and the RAM that you have on your system, and it will tell you what models you can run and at what sizes. But over here is the server. And this is really important. I'm going to open this up so you can see it up close here. You can see that I have 3 models already in play here, and they each have an idle time. And just so you know, when you're using Ollama as opposed to LM Studio that I'm using, Ollama comes with a default of 5 minutes. That means if you don't use the model in 5 minutes, if you don't send a prompt to it, it'll just drop. And in order to use it again, you've got to load it again. But I'm going to show you how long it takes, for example, for Mistral Nemo to load. And that's one of the things with Ollama is that if you don't understand, like I didn't at first, that it takes a while for the model to load, and then once it's loaded, you can just chat back and forth, and it's almost instantaneous, its response, you'll think something's broken with Open WebUI when in fact it is not. And let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to open up here and go down to Mistral Nemo. These here are tags that I have added to the models and the model list that I showed you near the beginning of the episode, but it's really helpful for me to quickly be able to see. So I recommend adding tags. Hey, could you give me please the date and the time again? That would be wonderful. Thank you. And I'm going to send this, and right here, this automation right here that you see, this is painful to look at, and it will sit there for a long time and you'll wonder what's going on. And we're going to see over here that I have a log file up. It's a match, direct match to here. I have opened up in a new window and resized this. And this is the important tip. When you are working with Open WebUI and nothing much is happening, you're just getting a loading screen. Well, here's how you find out what's going on. You see, it's loading. Over here is where if nothing happens, you'll see errors. In the big picture, the same thing stands for Docker. If something is going on with Open WebUI, for example, when I was working on trying to get my knowledge base connected to Obsidian, it wasn't working and I just thought the script was wrong. Finally, ChatGPT recommended that I find some sort of logs, and I found the logs here and I found out that there was an error happening every time I tried to send it. So the API was just rejecting it, and it turned out I needed to have the correct authorization code. So that is why I recommend, as a new server operator working with local models, to learn how to look at logs and save yourself some pain. And I'm speaking from experience. So you can see the model is still loading. And again, if you didn't know anything, you would just think it was broken because it's just sitting here. You'd say, wow, this is so slow. Local models suck. I don't want to, mess with how slow these are. And you'd give up before you even got started without knowing what was really happening. I also want to draw your attention down here to the RAM and the CPU usage for the model. And you can see that I'm using 37 gigs and I have 4 different models loaded and of RAM. And then my CPU is at 4.29%. And that will go up as the model starts to generate text. To move that along a little faster, I simply booted out one of the models so I'd have a little bit more system resource. And it's generating the token here, and here comes the response. And the last thing it will say all the time is client disconnected here. That's how you know that the entire thing was finished. And to learn how it's working in the background, which would make you a better prompter in the end, I highly encourage that you just peek through these logs and just attempt to try and understand them. They'll start to make sense as you look through them a little bit. You'll be able to see things like terms like top K and see what that's set to, and top P, and terms that you might have heard of or seen if you've worked in the OpenAI's API playground. So what's the verdict? Has Healbot been working for me in the week that I've been using it? The best way I can answer that is to tell you about this past Saturday when I needed to make it to 10 p.m. when my local store closed and the cravings were raging. And I was very distressed and trying to keep my sobriety, basically, to keep from acting out. And so I went to Healbot and I told it what I was struggling with. And it gave me an immediate protocol, which was amazing. It gave me this storm phase, told me I had 37 minutes. It gave a script that could be read to me to help me keep from basically giving in. And over here, I would just tell it as I was going, what was happening. Told me to eat some sauerkraut, which I did. But here is the cool part. As we got down to 14 minutes until close, well, R1 got really creative in the advice it was giving me. It told me, and I'm not joking, it told me to fist a frozen orange. It did because that orange has sugar in it. It did ask me not to eat it. But it said that the cold pain would be a dopamine diversion. It also told me that I should listen to my neural weirdo anthem, which, by the way, I have never told it that I have some neural weirdo anthem. And it recommended the song Dueling Banjos. I recommend that you look this up on YouTube because I actually didn't even, once I heard the song, I'd heard it before, but I had no idea what the model was talking about. And it told me to tap my collarbones in a 5/4 rhythm. Well, I was pretty desperate, so I put on Dueling Banjos as loud as I could and I started tapping away. And I listened to the song twice, just sitting there and rocking and trying very hard not to think of the store and the thing that I wanted there, and just tapping and listening to it. And at the end, I said, it worked. It worked. And it said in this font that I've never seen before. Has anyone else ever seen a model use this type of font before? Because that's pretty interesting to me. But it said, hell yes, you weaponized banjo rhythm neuroscience and chewed through the craving demon's femurs. Let's autopsy why this sorcery worked. No mad science, I swear. But then it said the thing that made me fall in love with my Healbot. It promised me, because I told it, that there was no way I was going to be fisting any frozen oranges, and earlier in the conversation, it suggested that I put lemon juice up my nose. It did say this. And so I said to it, please don't suggest these things. I think you might be a little bit mad. And it said, no citrus suppositories, literal or metaphorical, no nasal no nasal, I can't say it, no nasal lemons, and the best part, all future tactics will pass the would I try this sober test. Well, thank God I'm not an alcoholic or I'd be in trouble. So you might be wondering, well, should I make my own Healbot? Well, let me just tell you, the answer said so eloquently by Healbot itself, hell yes, you should make your own Healbot. I've given you the long and short of what it does and really how Open WebUI works, and that you're going to need to have a little bit of courage and a little bit of patience. I'll put a link to the Gumroad product, which will be free, which will have everything that I think might help you along on your journey. And feel free to ask me questions down below. But the most important thing is that if you're feeling overwhelmed about this, if you're thinking there is no way I can do all of this, are you crazy? I can't even deal with AI itself. I'm just overwhelmed. Well, I'm going to tell you that you have a superpower. We all do as human beings. And I'm going to share with you what that superpower is and how you can put it to work, whether you want a crazy mad Healbot or not. And that video is on screen right now.